I enjoy leadership because whether we like it or not, we're all placed in spaces where we are leaders.
I've always just been interested in leadership. I just love the idea of just helping people.
I think sometimes we overcomplicate leadership. You can't lead people you don't know.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't leave jobs, people leave people.
Yo, 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 what's up, party people? Welcome to another episode of Thrive and Dive, thriving in life as we dive into deeper conversations. The purpose of this show is to help you thrive, and I think you're going to thrive today because I have two guests on that are thriving in life, and we're going to dive into deeper conversations. Give it up for Joel Flaming and Dawson Johnson. Woo! Dawson, Joel, how are you guys doing today?
Good. Glad to be a part.
Yeah.
Glad to be joining
Great.
today.
I'm very excited. Like I said, this is my first time. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited that you decided to join. I was thrilled when I was talking with Joel. Joel's my brother. He's been on the podcast before, asking him, hey, who'd be another good person to talk about leadership stuff? And without hesitation, he said, Dawson Johnson. Dawson Johnson.
I appreciate it.
So, yeah.
Dawson the Rock Johnson.
Dawson the Rock Johnson. Let's go. And for quick introductions here for the Thrive and Divers, I've already mentioned Joel's my brother, but give it just a quick introduction to who you are, what you do, and if you wanted to say how we know each other, up to you. Just share a little bit of details. Joel?
Yeah. So as James mentioned, I have the privilege of being his older brother. There's three of us boys. As you know, Jason's been on the pod as well. So there's three amigos. I currently live in Lake Wales. I work at Warner University with both these guys, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the privilege of all playing soccer together at one point in time. So
Yes,
some of us were better than others. Some of us were older and more decrepit when we played soccer together. That was me. So
Fun fact, Joel is 10 years older than Dawson.
no, I'm not.
I was like,
Wait, yeah, you had me thinking, man, catching strays right off the gun.
Yeah.
Dang.
Whoa, Dawson.
it's a little inside joke between Joel and I always.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
On his
Isn't
birthday cards and
isn't he your boss, too?
Yeah,
Watch what you
but
say.
he must like me because I'm still
We
here.
keep him around.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I got to tell him to have a box candy just in case, because you never know.
Yeah. My
Just
name's
kidding.
Dawson, though. Like I said, I also work at Warner with Joel and James. Work in the admissions department under Joel, and yeah, that's what I do, and I love it there, very, very much so.
Love it. All working at Warner, all graduated from Warner, all played soccer at Warner. There's a theme here. And one other thing, there's probably more things we have in common in addition to all that, but one other thing is that we all are passionate about leadership, and is why I have them on to talk about leadership on this Monday episode. So I want to hear from you guys. What interests you about leadership? Why is that something you enjoy studying, enjoy talking about? Tell me.
I enjoy leadership because whether we like it or not, we're all placed in spaces where we are leaders. I think platform the Lord gives us to use requires an element of leadership. And I think as men specifically, we've been called to be leaders in the different spaces God calls us to. And so for me, I love studying it and talking about it and discussing it because it's something that should be a priority for specifically men. I think our culture, a lot of the issues stem back from lack of men being proper leaders. And so for me, it started in high school. I wrote my thesis for my defense in high school. At the school, James, that I went to, we all had to write a thesis. And mine was about the lack of biblical manhood and leadership in our culture and how it kind of led to the issues I think that we're seeing today. And so for me, it's always been near and dear to my heart because it's so pinnacle to the people around us. And so I think it's something that needs to be looked at, not only leadership as a whole, but from a biblical lens. But I think there's plenty of wrong definitions of leadership out there and wrong leadership mantras that people try to pursue. And I think biblical leadership specifically from me is something that we need to champion more often.
It's really good. My response isn't going to be as articulate as Joel.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, but for me, in my opinion, I mean, I've had some classes in college and things like that have taught me about leadership. Fortunate enough to, when was that? A few years back, going to Vero for that leadership conference. John Maxwell was there, and there's a few other people. But I've always just been interested in leadership growing up. I've been fortunate enough to be like told that I was going to be like the team captain for some of my soccer teams and things like that. And just something about being in a role where you're just have a lot of responsibility on yourselves just to like lead people. That's always been something that's inside, has just like stirred and just like always just wanted me just to like I just love being put into roles of leadership and things like that. But coming from that, I just love the idea of just helping people in any different areas that they're wanting to go into, or just help them. And it's just from reading a lot of books and things like that, I've learned like Jesus is 100% best leader ever. And one of my favorite things about Jesus is that there's not a single thing that he'll ask us to do that he hasn't done himself. And he proved that when he came down as a human, lived the perfect life. And just that in like a grand scheme of things, I just love so much, because that helps me want to just do better, just to help further his call for all of us. But I just love the idea of doing what you're supposed to, and then also helping other people. So I know that I said a lot of things, but I just love leadership because, one, Jesus led first and showed us how to live and how to help people and how to love people. And I just love being able to do that in different areas.
Love it. That's good, both of you guys. Next question for you is, when did you recognize you were in a leadership position? And then you're like, oh man, I'm the leader. I'm the one people are looking up to. When was one of the first occasions when that happened? And then how did you respond to that, I guess, status as a leader?
Question. I think for me, at first I wasn't very good at realizing I was the leader. And so I dropped the ball a couple times early on, and middle school is kind of when that mantle kind of was placed upon me. I didn't realize it at the time. And so for me, it took a mentor of mine to point out to me like, hey, God's given you these gifts, whether you realize it or not. And at that point, I didn't realize it. And you need to be stewarding it a little better. You need to do a better job, because whether you like it or not, people are looking up to you and following you. And I don't know if that's an older child thing, but I distinctly remember, as 6th or 7th grade, our youth pastor at the time told me that, hey, you have a platform, whether you like it or not. So use it to, one, empower others, and also just be a good steward of it. And I think that was probably 6th or 7th grade. I remember at that point joining our youth group. It was our youth pastor who kind of pointed out to me and made me realize like, hey, God's given you these gifts. Now it's your responsibility to use them well. That's probably the first distinct memory I think I have of someone empowering me to lean into the gifts that God had given me in that aspect.
I like that. For me, something that Joel touched on was just being like the older child. I'm also the oldest of two. And I think just naturally, and I mean, we're both parents now. So we kind of just know that once you start to add more children, I think without even thinking, you just naturally think the oldest has been here for a while. So naturally you're going to lend them some more responsibilities to help with the younger kids. Like, I just remember a lot of the times, whether it was on the bus or just helping out with my sister, I was always just asked and reminded that I'm the older, to lead by example. She looks at me, does what I do to make sure that I'm always just being self-aware of my actions, how I'm saying certain things, how I'm talking, how I'm treating people. So I think naturally, just from a younger age, I've already sort of had that in my head, just being self-aware of what I'm doing, and just knowing that people look up to me. And I think that sort of carried on, I think, in everything. When it comes to soccer, naturally, I would push myself to try and be the best on the field, to not let my teammates down. And then I think that sort of just vibe that I gave off, or just my effort, just naturally made people want to like lean towards me, or just, count on me. So I think sort of it all stems from just maybe being an older sibling. Yeah. That's what I think of, at least.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you guys would see that as an opportunity from the start. Sometimes when we think of leadership, we got to have a certain level of, credibility or status or position at a job. Like, you don't really have any of those things as the oldest child. You're just the oldest child. Like, you didn't even get to choose that, right? but taking advantage of that opportunity from the start and then allowing it to leveraging that opportunity in your spaces and places now is super cool. Something for me, just hearing your guys' commentary on those questions and also just my interest in leadership as well is just how, we're in the people business. That's really what leadership is all about. Like if you had to choose between, if you had to choose, you couldn't have both of these. Naturally, a good leader will have both of these. But if you had to choose between strategic thinking and good people skills, you can only choose one. I would choose people skills over strategic thinking. Because I think having good people skills, being able to lead people is more important than being a visionary and making good choices. But like I said, a good leader will have both. But if you had to choose to work on one first, it would be people skills. Because you could be the most strategic, visionary person ever. If you got nobody following you, it's just a vision of one. And there's no power in that. So looking at you guys from what I've observed, obviously known Joel a little longer than Dawson, being his younger brother, but observing both you guys are good with people, with your relational skills, and it has served you so well, and it will continue to serve you so well, which leads us to the book we are studying together that we want to unpack for you guys within some of these episodes of Thrive and Dive. And there's a book called The Way of the Shepherd. And I'm probably going to butcher these names, but Dr. Kevin Lehman, I think, and Bill Pentak. They wrote.
I would have said it.
Yeah, as I always said it. Okay, cool. And you're a doctor, so it should be good. The Way of the Shepherd. In this book, there's 7 principles of leadership, and if I remember correctly, Dawson has read a lot of leadership books, and he says, apart from the Bible, that this is his favorite book on leadership. Is that true?
All time.
Wow, that's wild.
I would echo that sentiment.
Really?
I
Wow.
love it.
Sweet. So if you've never picked up this book before, we would fully recommend it. Obviously, we're going to give you a little bit of commentary, but nothing beats actually reading the firsthand source. But we just want to spend some time talking about this book and how this could enhance your leadership and ultimately allow you to thrive. Because I've said before, I think those who thrive are good at leadership because they help other people thrive as well. So the first chapter of this book, let me just find it from my tables of contents because I want to make sure I get it word for word. The first principle that they share in this book is that we need to know the condition of our flock. And hence the title of the name, The Way of the Shepherd. There's a lot of sheep themes in here. And I've never been a shepherd before, but learned a lot of agricultural lessons and leadership lessons in this book. And so one of you guys unpack what that principle, give us a summarization of that principle before we get into the nitty gritty. What does know the condition of your flock mean when it relates to people?
So I'm going to start by saying why I think this is my favorite book of all time. I think sometimes we overcomplicate leadership. And so this book really boils it down to the essential things that every leader must be striving to do in order to be successful in the leadership roles they have. And obviously, as James mentioned, it refers to the concept of a flock and the shepherd's relationship with their sheep. And I think this first point is so important because you can't lead people you don't know. And so I think that's what this point kind of drives home is that as leaders who are metaphorically leading flocks, it's important as shepherds to know the condition of your sheep. You can't, for example, I was talking to an agricultural friend of mine. You can't lead sheep places that you haven't been there before yourself because, and if you don't know the condition of your sheep, you're not going to know where they can or cannot go. Some may not have the ability to follow you down that rocky path. Some may have to go down the hill a little further and go down this gravel path. So I think it's so important as leaders, as you cast vision, as you take them to the direction, the place you want to go, you first need to know their condition and know the road ahead. So in order to do that, you as a shepherd need to know the road ahead and know what shape your sheep are in. And I think that's kind of the thing that stuck out to me in this chapter, and I think is so important in leadership. And I'm glad that this was I understand why this is the first point because that's probably the most essential, because I think the other points that we'll discuss in later episodes stem back from this one right here. Because if you miss this one, the other 6 are hard to do. So,
yeah, and to add to Joel's point, there you go. There's one quote that I think can encompass this chapter, and to add to Joel's point, it's a saying that I've always loved saying, but seeing it in this book, I just thought that was awesome. And it's just that quote that's just, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So just like Joel's saying, it doesn't matter who you are in going back to also what James was saying about the two options, which are have strategic planning or people skills. Can't say I've worked for anybody that's not been a people person. I haven't had one of those, jobs where I haven't had fairly good leaders in their roles leading me, or managers, things like that. But I've heard a lot of stories about people don't leave jobs, people leave people. And a lot of times it comes down to this point where they just really just didn't care about the people that they were leading, that they were managing. And that's one of the reasons I love this book, is kind of like Joel was saying, there's some books out there that have like 40-ish points or something like that, which is great. And that they're definitely important, but I love that it's 7 quick, simple, and it just doesn't overdo it. It's very simple, and all with just the analogy of just being a shepherd to your sheep. And I think that also helps people, when you read it, relate to it a little bit more and to see how things play out. And that's why I love this book. But yeah, just that quote in itself.
I love that. So I think any leader, even if they aren't a top-notch leader, is not going to disagree that our people is our best investment into our company. Like, no one's gonna say like, no, people are kind of like, yeah, you can have whoever. But I feel like it's so interesting. People will recognize, yes, we're in the people business with leadership. You need to know the condition of your flock in order to have a successful business, but they still neglect to actually like know their people. Like, everyone says the right things, like, yeah, you gotta know your people. But when a push comes to shove and deadlines are coming and there's tasks to be done and the list is huge and there's demands and stress, the caring for the flock and understanding the people and getting to know them is just kind of like a luxury rather than a necessity. What makes that shift, you think, in leaders that are more task-oriented over people-oriented?
I think a big way to sort of like distinguish those two is just like intentionality. And I think it all just goes back to just us being sinners, and it's very easy to just go through the flow. Naturally, on autopilot, we do a lot of things that the Lord hasn't called us to do. And unless you're intentional with things like being self-aware of when you're not truly caring about people, when you're only saying, yeah, I care about these people, but then, like you said, when push comes to shove, you care more about the work than about the people. It happens to everyone. It happens to all of us as well. When we're not intentional about how we're treating people, how we're caring about people, how we're loving people, we naturally just don't see them as who they truly are. So that's probably what I would say is in terms of like how to like prevent that, or how to basically distinguish who's like a quality leader, who's not. Probably just be whoever actively just tries to be intentional, like daily. Yeah, for me at least.
I think specifically in the corporate world, but I think this applies in this leadership as a whole, within your families, within your friendships, within the other spheres of influence. I think sometimes we see people as a means to an end. And sometimes we fail to value the person as the person first. I think sometimes in the professional setting, we see that as okay, because ultimately we're not there, on paper at least, right, to take care of the people. We're there to get the job done that's on the job description. And so you treat them as the conduit to get that job description done. And yes, that can be productive for a while, but it's not a sustained culture or process that's going to build a fine-tuned machine, in the sense that people aren't machines. And if you want a process to move smoothly, you need to treat them as people first. And then the results will take care of themselves if you treat people the right way and stop seeing them as means to an end, or simply the conduit to get that job description that you hired them for to get done. And I think some people, that's okay. Turnover is fine, right? Okay, this person served their time and did what I asked them to do. I didn't really care about them. I'll just hire the next person to do it, right? Yeah. But if you're truly embracing what it means to be a leader, you see people for far more than just the tasks they get done.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the realization needs to come as leaders, is even when, we've all been there, when the push comes to shove, it's stressful. There's a lot going on. I think that's where, back to what Dawson mentioned, that just the intentionality needs to be at the forefront of the way you treat people and behave and lead. And obviously different contexts determine different ways you do that. But
Sure.
as a whole,
Yeah, I remember that lesson of making sure not to see people as means to an end really hit home for me. Quick story: I remember when I was teaching at a school that was on the same campus as a church, and as us as teachers for the school and people on staff of the church, we still would collaborate sometimes. And the communications director at the church, I just needed something. I don't know if it was video stuff or whatever. I just needed something from her, and and over the course of the year. Every time I come to the office, she would say, "Oh, what do you need?" Like, "Oh, and basically saying, "Oh, you can only come see me when you need something."
Mm.
So I'm like, "Ooh, that simple question is like, oh, what do you need?" Like, I already assumed he needs something from me. I'm like, "Ooh, I never
Mm.
come here just to say hi. I just come to this office when I need something." And now subconsciously know, "Oh, James here, you need something from me." I'm like, "Dang, yikes!" And she was kind about it. I don't think she was really trying to like call me out or anything. It's like, "Oh man, I'm literally just coming here for needs and not for personal relationship and things of that nature." And I wasn't her boss or anything, but still developing good people skills and caring for people is not just a hierarchy type thing where leader subordinate. No, it's teammate to teammate,
right.
caring for each other as people instead of what can you do for me, Dawson, or Joel, what can you do for me? And so a practice I've done, and maybe this will help you guys out, is that when you, especially when you work for an organization as big as Warner, there's so many staff members. I don't see you guys every day. Sometimes when I see you, it's like, oh, the thing that I need you for comes to mind first. And like, oh, there's an opportunity. This is convenient. I can talk to them about it. And be like, wait, no, I just saw them. I'm just gonna say hi. If I need to address something I need from them, I'll intentionally try to seek them out to get that need done. I think we're so subconsciously ready. Oh, I need something. Oh yeah, and you could bring up the conversation of the thing you need from them, and just like, no, meet the person, talk with the person first, need second.
Right.
So
That's a good reminder.
So yeah, that's treating people as people. I really like that principle you shared, Dawson, and I've used it a lot ever since I was a teacher. Is people don't care what you know until they know that you care, and it's so funny. It's the irony is just cracks me up. How maybe those who are more use power instead of personality, or positional power over personal power. Like I'm going to wield my power authority to get you to do things for me. They argue that that's the more efficient way. Learning about you and caring about you, knowing where your kids go to school, that's just wasting time. No, time is of the essence. But the irony is the people that are more efficient are actually the ones that take the time to get to know their team, because their team is going to have so much more motivation to actually do work hard, because I care about my leader and I'm going to go battle the gates of hell for them, kind of thing, because they care about me and I care about them, as opposed to the cog analogy said, all right, you're a cog in my machine. Get the work done, maximum efficiency. We don't have time for chit chat. We don't have time to talk over lunch. And then they actually end up being less efficient because they're constantly having to replace people, retrain people, get a new cog for their machine, order some new parts for their machine. That's just not sustainable. So those are some good thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I read something about, I was following somebody on, I can't remember, was it LinkedIn or Twitter or something like that, but they were talking about how much money organizations lose because they fail to treat people like people and instead treat them as a cog in the machine. Like millions of dollars worth of money lost because of the amount of time they had to retrain new people. And so like if you just simply sat down and did the math, you would just literally see how much it's actually costing you by not treating your people well. It's funny. It was an interesting article I read. But anyways, just hammering home that point you made is you're actually losing more money if you aren't treating your people well. Some would argue.
Yeah. So for you guys, some application here. I kind of shared some examples of me and some adjustments I had to make. What do you guys do? Or some Dawson specific, Joel specific. Obviously, some things are going to be universal to everybody. But what are some things that you do, Joel, to show that you care for your team, or Dawson, you care for your team, or whoever you work with? What are some things that are intentional that you do?
So when I read this book for the first time, was a couple years ago, about 5 years now. I didn't really necessarily have people I could check in on. I worked for one person and it was just me. So it was it was tough for me to live out those principles. But I started with spheres of influences that were outside of work. I started with family. I started with students who would come over to my house for Bible study. And for me, the point that gets brought up in this chapter is get to know your flock one sheep at a time, was one that really hit home the first time I read this book. And I think to this day, even reading it again is so important, because you need to engage your people on a regular basis and individually. I think and now that I'm responsible for people, I can have staff meetings till I'm blue in the face. But if I'm not going around and checking on each one of them individually, it can feel like I'm just glossing over them. And I think for me, and not even in the professional setting, but in the different settings at my church or at home, I think it's important that intentional care is being shown to each person individually. That has nothing to do with what they can do for me. It revolves around getting to know them as a person, seeing how they're doing, how their day was, checking to see how their family's doing at home, checking in on their hobbies, making sure they're still pursuing them. Because I think it's important for people to know that you care about them as the whole person instead of what they're doing from 8:30 to 4:30 or 9 to 5, whatever their work schedule is. I think for me is going, and it takes intentionality too. Like even it's for example, today I was at my desk a lot more than I would have wanted to be, because I think it's important throughout the day to go in and check on people. We all know how Mondays can be. They're awful. Sometimes you need to go take a break and go check in on people. And so I think it's important to regularly instill a pattern of getting up and checking in. I think is super important. And it may not have anything to do with work. It may have nothing to do with job description or what they're working on, what I'm working on. It's just about checking on their well-being and seeing how they're doing. I think that's a practice I've tried to implement in the different settings that the Lord's blessed me with to steward. I think it's important to check in on your sheep one at a time.
I think I've never been in a role in terms of like in admissions where like someone's working directly over me. I've never been in that sort of role like Joel has. But one thing that I'd have to give credit for Joel, and then also who was previously in the role Scarlett, who Joel, whenever I first started, Joel was the assistant to Scarlett. One thing that I've even thought of as of recent, I was like, if I ever get put in a role where I'm over someone, I'm going to make sure to add this, just because receiving it is just really, really cool. And that's just always having a door open. They both always did it. I can't imagine what it would be like if I ever needed my boss or director, whoever it was, and the door was always shut. I think I can't think of the word, but like, that's just like a symbol. What's the word?
Nonverbal communication?
Yeah, it's like that in itself, like a shut door, naturally doesn't make you feel like there's like trust there.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
So I think by having the door open symbolizes that trust that they have for us, like that love that they have for their people. And I just love it. I love like seeing, like we have ambassadors that work at the office, and like Joel was saying, Joel will go and check in with people, but also because that door being open, ambassadors will come and just like run into his office and just like start talking, like you said, not even about work, just about stuff. And I'm like, that's so cool, because in just like a normal manager that's just all about work, you wouldn't have any of that personalization. People would probably never go to Joel, because anytime that you go to Joel, he's going to make sure he needs to check on if I'm doing the work right, if I'm doing this. And it's going to make you almost like fear. Yeah. Instead of loving your boss. So one thing that I just give credit to them for is just always keeping that door open. And like Joel saying, it actually says in the book as well, like Dr. Newman, who's not on that book title, but he was the original shepherd that I believe Pytech would learn from. He said that he always checked on his sheep or his ranch handler twice a day. And it's just something about being just amongst your people is so important. Like you have to be there. Yeah. Be in front of them. Show them that you're there.
It seems like it's the easiest thing ever, but it's just so neglected, right?
Yeah. It sounds so simple, but it goes so far because people don't do that. People will sit in their office all day thinking, because there's this idea that, like you said, it has to be work forward, where if people see you, they see that you genuinely care about them. Whenever they leave, okay, he cares about me. Of course I'm going to do my work, because he is showing me that he cares about me, cares about the job, cares about my personal life. So of course I'm then going to want to put in even more effort than I did. So yeah.
Love that.
I can't remember what the question was, but I just had to give credit to,
how you apply
to Joel
in personal life. Yeah, you're getting some good lessons and tidbits. And I'm sure, even though you don't have any direct reports, you are leading, whether it's the ambassadors or the soccer guys on the soccer team. So don't sell yourself short, man. You're rocking it, man.
Lots of influence.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, again, simple like principles, but just the consistency of the application is what makes us the good leaders, the great leaders. So with that being said, any closing thoughts that you wrote down that you just want to make sure you got into this episode of this first chapter of the book? Because if not, we'll go ahead and wind this down.
I think as I was rereading this chapter again, I think something that came to mind again is, and thinking as a from the biblical standpoint too, because Jesus used the shepherd example a whole lot, and it's throughout Scripture we see it a ton. The sheep will know you by the sound of your voice, and I think that's important as leaders. Your sheep can only recognize your voice if you speak to them or with them, right? And they'll know too the tone and persona. Like if there's, for example, I hope this comes across, but like if we're in crunch time and our team knows that we're in crunch time and I come in with a certain tone, they know that I'm not coming at them because I don't think they're doing their job well. Because they know the sound of my voice. They know that it's go time. We need to lock in. It's time to get stuff done. It has nothing to do with them, their behavior, what they've done in the past, or where we're at now. It's just the reality of, hey, we got a crisis pop up. It's time to pull up our bootstraps and get it done. But they would only know that if they knew the sound of my voice. If that was the only time I talked to them, then of course they would think that, oh man, we did something so wrong. We dropped the ball somewhere and I'm in trouble. But they know, because I try to make them accustomed to the sound of my voice, that no, he's not mad. We just got something to do. He got assigned something that we got to knock out together, or we had an unforeseen crisis or something that popped up that we need to address as a team, and we need to hunker down and get it done. So I think it's super important as shepherds in the spheres of influence that we have, that we take the time for our sheep to know the sound of our voice. So they know that they're not under the whip or the hook. It's simply the context is different, but they know that the still same self-assured voice is there. It's just speaking a different tone, and they're not in trouble. I think that only happens if they get the time to know what your voice sounds like. And so that's something that just popped up as I was reading this chapter again.
Yeah, that in itself could be another hour long.
Sure,
thing,
yeah.
But I'll cut it. One of my favorite Bible verses is in Matthew 18, and it's just the parable of the wandering sheep. And I'm just going to read it because that's something that I would love to just close with, because that in itself, I think just encompasses this whole first chapter, this whole book, but just leadership in general. It's Matthew 18, verse 12 to 14. It's, what do you think if a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away? Will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he's happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. And just right there, I think just as humans, naturally, we think 99 over 1. There's always going to care. You should always care about the majority rather than the one. And it's flipped when it comes to Jesus, because he says you do need to care about them, but you also need to care about the individuals, because we're all made in the Lord's image. So we're all made individually, special, wired with different things, different personalities, different passions that holistically should all lead us to pursuing Christ and furthering his kingdom. But that's just one of my favorite verses, because that in itself shows that if you do not care about people individually as one, you will not get the best of them, and they will not want to give the best to you. And so I just encourage everyone to read this book, but also just look to the life of Jesus and how he lived, because he's the best leader I think we can all learn from. So yeah.
Well said. Great way to end this episode. So yes, check out this book if you haven't already. If you're a leader, develop that care muscle, care for your people. We were created to care. And the more you care for your people, the more they care for you, and the more they care for the mission that your organization is seeking to achieve. And so this is the first chapter of this book. And we're so glad you joined us for this episode. Thank you, Joel Dawson. A big round of applause again. Debut episode. Love it. Love it.
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Of course. If you like this video, smash that like button on YouTube, or follow us on Spotify. And we'll see you at the next episode, because this is Thrive and Dive. Thriving in life as we dive into deeper conversation.